When some retire, they look for a rocking chair. Steve Drain says he won't be rocking. He'll be too busy racing.
30 years since I've been on a racetrack.
But like his '71 Honda CB500,
Man, this bike was built before half these guys were born, you know.
at age 60, he's the first to admit he's getting a bit long in the tooth.
I know that I'm not 30 anymore. A couple of retirees out on the racetrack.
Testing the limits of aging machine and man. Vintage road racing on the Westwood Motorcycle Racing Club track in Mission, BC.
It's gonna be a really good hobby.
To handle road racing, the bike sports custom suspension and brakes. The modified engine fitted with twin carbs. It's fast, but
The bike is not like one of these super bikes that the young guys drive with 200 horsepower or anything like that. The bike and I are matched.
although the riders mostly stock.
Hardest part about this whole race thing was getting a leather suit on.
Motorcycles, his lifelong passion and his career until he turned 60 and retired.
You know, I enjoyed myself so much back in the days when I was racing in 83, 84, 85, and 6.
Steve owned Victoria's Harley-Davidson dealership for 40 years, but the very thing he loved kept this Canadian Motorcycle Hall of Famer from doing what he loved. Wrenching and retail, forcing him to the sidelines.
To run my business. Simple as that. I've dreamt about getting back on the track ever since that day, and here we are. I vowed before I sold my business that when I retired that I would get on the track somehow with my old friend Richard here. We've been riding together since we were young guys, and it was a great feeling. A couple old friends just having at it, you know.
Steve's on the right track. Studies show that men who shared skills like motorcycle mechanics and racing were less likely to become depressed in retirement. Studies in the UK suggest that the best way to stay healthy in retirement is to actually keep working.
It's an interesting thing when you return to a sport that you love after such a big absence, and all the little things, like not only being out on the track, but just sitting around with the guys, working on bikes, bench racing, and going over some of the good times we had together. I gotta tell you, man, it's therapeutic.
But this isn't lawn bowling or fly tying. There's real risk involved.
If I don't feel it's in me, I won't do it.
Steve says he knows his limits, and besides,
I ain't setting any records, but it feels good to be out there.
to race again, Steve needed to recertify. He completed the Westwood Novice Race Club course, allowing him to race on other tracks. He plans to race his way across North America after a few more local runs.
Started to come back, you know, about 10 or 12 laps in, I could just sort of feel it, and I started to dream about the old days, you know.
Yes, this vintage bike and rider are a perfect match. Steve, confident in his abilities. The bike,
It's stretched to the limit. So it's up to the rider to make sure that you can finish the race,
he says he'll keep racing until he can't.
or you lose your nerve.
A radical retirement? Maybe. But this lifelong biker says he wouldn't have it any other way.
No rocking chairs for this guy.
In Mission, I'm Paul Beilstein for Go on ShawTV.